Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Jones. From dusk to dawn, there is a dangerous threat living where you least expect it, your very own home. Stop and think about this for a moment. Your life can change forever because of just one mosquito bite. Nearly 2 years ago, Melissa and Blake Diamond just moved into their home in Bountiful when a quick chat in the driveway turned their lives upside down.
A neighbor stopped us to talk, and we were in the driveway for a few minutes, and I got bit by a mosquito. Ooh, I hope I don't get West Nile from this. And I remember the thought going through my head.
10 days later, Melissa began having symptoms and went to the emergency room. Doctors sent her home saying she just had the flu.
We were back at the emergency room, and basically at that point I was confused. I couldn't walk, and because of my diabetes, Blake told them, "You cannot send her home again."
They were going to release her, and I told them that I wouldn't take responsibility for her because I couldn't care for her. And she hadn't eaten for over
10 days.
About 10 days.
Shortly after, those doctors learned that she had the West Nile virus. Melissa remembers feeling like she wasn't going to make it through this illness.
And I remember waking up and thinking, I know I'm at the hospital, and I know I don't feel like I can breathe, and I don't feel like I can see, and my vision had gotten, so I had double vision in my left eye at that time, and just feeling like I couldn't really move.
In the beginning, the West Nile virus left Melissa unable to talk or swallow. She was very confused, wasn't able to move without assistance.
I remember the first time they wanted me to go for a walk and just feeling like, this just feels really strange. And I was so weak, and I think I did one lap around the nurse's station and came back, and I had an anxiety attack, which I'd never had an anxiety attack before. And so I thought I was having respiratory failures.
The journey to restore Melissa's mind and body started out extremely slow.
I remember she wasn't able to move her arms, really. I remember the day she could move her arm to her face, and that was a big thing.
After several weeks in the hospital, Melissa was cleared to go home, but at the time, Blake wasn't so sure.
But taking her home, I was just scared to death.
Blake handled the changes in stride and helped Melissa learn how to eat again. Melissa had to relearn simple everyday tasks. Before the West Nile virus, Melissa was a very active woman in her early 30s. She loved to bike, hike, walk, and do yoga, but that all stopped.
So going from, somebody who I mountain biked a lot, I'm a hiker, I road bike, I do all these things, to really being where I didn't know if I would walk again was difficult.
Now, 2 years later, recovery remains elusive. Melissa is still dealing with the painful foot condition called dystonia.
I just went through this big process of where I almost died, and now this is going to continue to be a problem.
The good news, doctors hope the condition will go away in the meantime. Melissa has learned how precious and fragile life can be.
I look at the pictures before I became sick, and there's sort of this a kind of a joy and kind of almost a naivete of, just being happy and doing all these wonderful fun things that I enjoyed so much.
Melissa is learning how to accept her new life with its new challenges and looks forward with new appreciation for her life.
Life is so fleeting in a lot of respects. It's not, you can have things change at the, kind of the drop of the hat, and it's difficult because you want to just live life happily.
Today, Melissa is back to work as an epidemiologist for the state of Utah. She deals with the risks and statistics for the West Nile virus. Little did she know, she would become a West Nile statistic herself. One misconception about the West Nile virus is only the old and young are hit hard by it. Not so. 18-year-old Shelby Kennington was an active cheerleader getting ready for her senior year when she suddenly found herself laying flat on her bed.
I was to the point where I had no idea what was going on. I couldn't even walk by myself. My mom actually kind of had to put her arm around me and kind of lift me. And so they put a mask over me because they didn't know what was wrong with me, and they didn't want me to give it to everyone else. And so they took me into a room, and I think they asked my mom all of these questions.
A blood test found the Davis County teen contracted the West Nile virus, which led to meningitis.
Just the whole thing was a nightmare. I was just, I didn't know what was going on with me, and I just laid on my couch the entire time I was sick and just sat there because I didn't know what was wrong with me, and my head was just pounding constantly and never stopped.
It took a little over a month before Shelby was able to go back to school and back into cheerleading. She never thought young, healthy, active cheerleaders could come down with the West Nile virus.
That's what I thought. I thought, because they always say it hurts older people or younger people, but I'm right in between and I'm active and stuff, so obviously that's not true. It just takes one mosquito to get you, and it can kill you.
Shelby is sending out a wake-up call to everyone who doesn't think the West Nile virus is a dangerous threat.
That it is serious. I was in their shoes at one time, didn't think it was serious, didn't think I could get it, but what it put me through was very scary. It could have ended my life.
Only a very small percentage of the people who contract the West Nile virus will die from it, but that doesn't mean people who live through it had it easy. One man living in Murray developed more than 20 different symptoms, each one severe enough to send him to the hospital.
I told my wife, you're going to have to take me to the doctor, or if he's not available, I got to go to emergency. There's just something wrong here. And
Duff Greenwell was right. He spent 2 days in the hospital before he learned he had the West Nile virus.
it was a funny thing. It was stranger than anything I'd had. I could feel it. I could feel where it was in my muscles. I could feel it as it moved through my throat. I could feel right where it was.
Not only was the virus strange, but it was extremely painful, and it moved through his body, affecting almost every muscle.
Over the course of about 6 weeks, I had 22 different identifiable symptoms and problems. Probably 15 or 16 or 17 of them by themselves serious enough to send you to the doctor, or if not, the emergency room.
This is Dr. Dagmar Viatek. She is the medical director for the Salt Lake Valley Health Department. She explains what can happen to people who develop the severe form of the West Nile virus.
Meningitis is an inflammation of the surrounding of a brain. And encephalitis is actually inflammation of the brain itself.
Dr. Viatek warns many people who do come down with the illness will have a difficult recovery.
In the beginning, we thought, it's like flu-like illness. You're going to be sick for a week, and then you're going to be just fine. Well, some people actually have problems with the illness. They're 1 month into it, 2 months into it, and they really are so tired they cannot get out of bed.
Greenwell had an extremely difficult recovery. He was in the hospital for 3 days, flat on his back for 2 weeks, and several months passed before his life was back together.
Once I got back to work full time, then you have to start getting the rest of your life back. I'd come home from work and just crash out and couldn't do anything, so I'd gradually start, now I can do an hour's worth, now I can do 2 hours worth and all. So it was pretty close to 6 months.
Faye Andrews of Midvale tells us her battle to overcome the West Nile virus was not only extremely difficult and challenging, but helped her find a deeper meaning in life.
Well, I felt like I almost died. I felt very, very close to that. And so in my mind, I thought, okay, you're going to either die or you're going to live.
Faye spent 4 days in the hospital and more than a month in a rehab unit. The West Nile virus left her unable to do many basic motor tasks on her own.
I could not walk. My right arm was gone. I had blood clots in my one leg.
When Faye went home, she was confined to a wheelchair. She had to learn how to walk, write, and even dress herself all over again.
That life's too short. Don't let it get by you. And that brings tears to my eyes. Because, you have a life there and you need to live it to the fullest. And I wasn't before, but now I am. Have a whole new outlook on life.
First-time mother Anna Nibley Baker was 9 months pregnant when she was bitten by a mosquito. She was in terrible pain, but just thought it was normal for having a new little one.
Yeah, I knew something was wrong when I had the really high fever. And I should have gone in earlier, but I thought, I have this appointment in a week. I don't want to drag the baby out and drive somewhere if I don't have to.
Anna went to the doctor for a checkup and was quickly rushed to the emergency room. She spent 4 days in the hospital, but it took doctors another 3 weeks to figure out she had the West Nile virus. Anna was outside in her backyard when she was bitten.
And I live on 23rd South. I'm not in, there's no farmland around me. It's houses. So you just have to protect yourself.
Now, luckily, Anna's son didn't get the virus. He's very healthy and active now and extremely busy, just what his parents want. Now, there are several safety messages out in the public right now on West Nile virus, so why then are so many people not protecting themselves and their families? Sammy Dixon, the manager for the Salt Lake County Mosquito Abatement Program, has one possible answer.
The virus has been around for a while, and people have been getting sick, a few each year, but it's only a few people in comparison to everybody that's out there. We've given a lot of messages to people to wear repellents.
Dixon says people need to change their lifestyles if they're going to keep the West Nile virus out of their lives.
With West Nile virus, it's here to stay. It's going to be with us for many years. There's going to be people getting sick each year with West Nile virus, and to prevent that, we need to change our lifestyle so that we wear repellents in the evenings, or we change the time of day that we do things so that we're not exposed to so many mosquitoes.
Most of us do wear repellents when we're out in the great outdoors, but not in our backyards.
It's a common misconception that people think when they're out camping and stuff, they're at a bigger risk than they are at their home. They're probably a bigger risk at their own home. Most of our camping is done at higher elevations, and the higher in elevation you go, the less mosquitoes you have that carry West Nile virus. The most mosquitoes you have are right in your own backyard.
So what happens to your body if you do contract the West Nile virus?
People need to know that West Nile virus is a disease that if it goes to the central nervous system, there is no cure. There are no medicines for it. They can treat the symptoms, try to keep the fever down, but there's no magic cure.
Now, humans aren't the only ones who are at risk from dusk to dawn. Horse owners are being reminded to be vigilant and protect their animals.
The horse is a beautiful animal. It's a romantic icon of the West. Utah is a great part of the West, and people ought to be doing the things that they can to protect their animals.
He has this advice for horse owners looking to protect their animals from the West Nile virus.
The first step is to have their animals vaccinated in the springtime, well before mosquitoes emerge. Get a shot early on and then a booster shot later in the year. So we have 2 shots is the basic message for horse owners, and that will protect their horses from West Nile virus. Yeah, don't give up. Don't forget about West Nile virus. Your horse is a beautiful animal. You need to protect it. And, the steps are pretty easy to take. A little time invested will save the life of your horse.
Now is the time. Protect yourself and your family from the West Nile virus. Don't underestimate it, don't misunderstand it, and don't overlook it. No one is safe and anyone can contract it. Don't become the next victim. The West Nile virus can change your life forever.
Pay attention, this is not a joke.
Because everyone always thinks that it's never going to happen to me. But I'm positive from my own experience that it creates chaos. It has created chaos in my body.
So just take the 5 minutes to read the information and take the 2 or 3 minutes that it takes just to prepare yourself to protect your family and your loved ones.
Well, I'd hate to see anybody permanently damaged when it's something that's totally avoidable. I mean, that's just foolishness.
I've gone a lot of places, done a lot of outdoor things, but the place I got the West Nile was my backyard. So, you know, just stepping out your back door can sort of be a risk.
Go get bit. Try it out. You won't like it. I mean, really, you know, people, you can talk to them blue in the face and you can still educate them as much as possible, but until they actually experience it, or maybe I should call them up at 3 o'clock in the morning and have them come over and babysit me while I'm, you know, doing my thing. You know, that might be a wake-up call for them, but I mean, that's really all you can do.
I guess I just learned to love for her and to love her life, and that's all I could do was to care for her and to be positive. I think I learned how to not look at the negative sides and just look at all the positive things that we could, although the list was small, the list was growing. And I think I learned a lot of patience, and I learned how to fight for her, and I learned how to take care of her, and I learned to love her.